Today, we are unpacking the AI boom. And we're going to do it by looking at a fantastic new report that breaks this whole thing down into 3 acts. First, the absolutely insane speed of its growth. Second, the weird, paradoxical economics that are driving it. And third, the new global space race that it's kicked off. So let's get right into it. You know, back in the dot-com days, one of the founders of the internet itself said, things were moving in dog years, like 7 years of change crammed into one. Well, if the internet moved in dog years, AI is moving at rocket ship speed. We're talking about a pace of change we have literally never seen before. And that brings us to our first act.
Act 1, the unprecedented ramp. We are watching, in real time, the fastest technology adoption in human history. Let's look at just how fast we're talking and why it's making every previous tech wave look like it was standing still.
Okay, to put this in perspective, think about this. It took Netflix more than 10 years to get to 100 million users. Instagram, which felt like an overnight sensation, did it in about 2.5 years. And then there's ChatGPT. It hit that same milestone in just 2 months. That's a whole decade of growth, compressed into about 60 days. It's just wild. And it's not just people signing up for the first time, right? It's about how much they're using it. It took Google, the king of search, 11 years to build up to 365 billion searches a year. ChatGPT, it got there in 2. That's more than 5 times faster. We are just in a completely different reality now.
So this isn't just hype. This ramp is being fueled by an unbelievable fire hose of cash. Just this year, the 6 biggest U.S. tech companies are pouring $212 billion into the infrastructure behind AI. Think data centers, chips, the whole shebang. That's a 63% jump in spending in just 1 year. They are betting the entire farm on this.
All right, so we've got this record-breaking ramp in adoption, in usage, in investment. But, and this is a really big but, there's this bizarre economic riddle sitting right at the heart of it all. Which brings us to Act 2, the AI cost paradox. This is where things start to get really, really interesting.
So here's the paradox on one slide. On one side of the coin, you've got the cost to train a brand new frontier AI model, and that cost, it's exploding. It's skyrocketing into the billions. But on the other side, you've got the cost for you, or a developer, to actually use that model. That's called inference. And that cost is in an absolute free fall. You've got these 2 powerful forces pulling in completely opposite directions.
Let's just look at the training side for a second. Back in 2016, a top-tier model might have cost, $50,000 to train? Today, we're talking north of 100 million. And it's not stopping. I mean, listen to the CEO of Anthropic, who says we could see models that cost $10 billion to train as soon as next year. The price of ambition is just breathtaking.
But at the exact same time that's happening, the cost to actually use the AI, the inference cost, has collapsed. It's dropped by 99.7% in just 2 years. Something that used to be pretty pricey for developers is now becoming so cheap it's practically free. It's making AI accessible to almost everyone on the planet.
So wait a minute, how can the cost to use AI be plummeting while total spending on AI is exploding? Well, this is actually a classic economic idea called the Jevons paradox. It goes all the way back to the 1800s. The idea was that as steam engines got more efficient, people didn't use less coal. They found more things to do with steam power, so they ended up burning even more coal. And that's exactly what's happening now. The cheaper AI gets, the more we use it, which drives this massive, massive demand for the computing power that makes it all work. So this leaves us with a huge question, right? If it costs a fortune to build these things, but it's dirt cheap to use them, what kind of world does that create? What is the natural outcome of this massive economic tension? Well, here's the answer. It creates an all-out, no-holds-barred global competition. And that's our Act 3, the new AI space race. That cost paradox we just talked about, it's not just some academic puzzle. It is the engine that is fueling a massive battle for the future of technology, and the stakes are just as high as they were in the original race to the moon. And don't just take my word for it. Meta's own CTO, Andrew Bosworth, he calls it our space race, and he points directly at China as a major competitor.
The key line in what he says is this: you want to make sure that you're never behind. In a race this important, there's no prize for second place. So let's look at the battlefield. Right now, yeah, US companies have a big lead in who's using their models. But look closely at this chart. A Chinese company, DeepSeek, has already managed to grab more than a fifth of the entire global market. This isn't some far-off possibility. The race is on right now. To really get what's happening in this new space race, you have to see it as a war being fought on 3 different fronts. First, you've got the established tech giants building a massive defensive moat. Second, you have a scrappy insurgency from the open source world. And third, you have the high-stakes geopolitical chess match between the US and China. First, let's talk about the incumbent's advantage. I mean, just think about this. Microsoft, Google, and Apple, together, they have a distribution network of over 5 billion users. That means they can push new AI features to almost every single phone, computer, and device on the planet, practically overnight. It's a huge, almost unfair advantage. But here comes the insurgency. This is the second front. While the big guys have their walled gardens, open source models like Meta's Llama are seeing just explosive growth. By giving their code away for free, they are arming millions of developers around the world to build, to innovate, and to maybe, just maybe, disrupt the entire system from the outside in. And that brings us to the third front, the geopolitical game. And it's not just about software. The race for AI is also happening in the physical world. And on this front, China has a simply staggering lead. They have more industrial robots installed than the US and the rest of the world put together. That is an enormous head start in what experts call embodied AI. And the pace of this whole thing is just relentless. I mean, look at this. In a single month, January of 2025, major Chinese firms dropped new models that were competitive with the absolute best from the West. And then, the very next month, boom. The top US players, OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, they all fired back with even more powerful models. This isn't a marathon, it's an all-out sprint, and nobody is even thinking about tapping the brakes. So what's the takeaway from all this? The AI boom is a story of speed we can't comprehend, driven by economics that seem to defy logic, all creating a global race where the stakes could not possibly be higher. And it's all happening right now. As the great Stephen Hawking once warned us, success in creating AI could be the biggest event in our history. But, he said, it could also be the last. Thanks for joining us.